Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be DIYing some Urban Outfitters inspired home decor. All of these projects were super fun to create and I can't wait to share them with you guys. So make sure to stay tuned for the rest of the video and give it a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Also, make sure to subscribe for more DIY and home decor projects, and let's just get started. For the first DIY, I decided to recreate this tall stacking pot from Urban Outfitters that retails for $90. I thought that this would be perfect for hiding away the basic black and ugly pots that faux plants usually come in. In order to create this pot, I used 5 floral foam rings from the dollar store and a piece of scrap foam board. I placed one of the floral rings on the foam board and traced the inside circle with a pencil. Then, using my X-Acto knife, I cut the circle shape out of the foam, and this is going to be the bottom of the plant pot. You can also use a piece of cardboard instead of the foam board. I took the 5 floral foam rings outside and laid them out on some cardboard boxes and spray painted them this really nice terracotta color. After 45 minutes, I turned each foam ring and spray painted the other side as well. They sell 2 different colors of this pot on Urban Outfitters website, the terracotta and an ivory one. But make sure to paint this plant pot whatever color you like and what goes best with your design style. You can also use acrylic paint instead of spray paint if you want, so just have fun with this part. After about an hour, I brought the foam rings inside and used my hot glue to stack them on top of each other. I held each foam ring in place for about 45 seconds to ensure the hot glue is adhering properly. I also made sure to align the seams, and that would essentially be the back of the pot. Next, I glued the white circle foam piece on the inside of the bottom floral ring using some more hot glue. Keep in mind that I didn't want this bottom piece to show at all in order to have a more seamless look in the end, and that's why there was really no need to spray paint it the same terracotta color. Once the whole plant pot was glued together, I took it outside and gave it one last coat of the terracotta spray paint to make sure none of the green foam color is peeking through. That completed this first project and it was super easy to make. I really love how this plant pot came out and it only cost me $5. In the second DIY, I recreated this tiered planter from Urban Outfitters. This particular planter is priced at $49 on their website. I just really like the minimalistic look of this planter and wanted to make my own for less. For this project too, I turned to the gardening section of the dollar store. Honestly, I think that this section is pretty awesome and they always have a nice variety of different foams in different shapes which can be turned into amazing decor pieces. Anyways, I bought 4 of these rectangular foams, but I ended up using only 2 of them. I put the 2 foam pieces against each other at a 90-degree angle. Then I used the box cutter to cut them to size where the height and the length of the whole piece was the same. Next, I hot glued the 2 foam pieces together. In the next step, I used my box cutter to gently shave off the edges all around the piece. This technique allowed me to create the soft, rounded edges similar to the original Urban Outfitters planter. I continued this process all around the foam piece, until no more angular edges were left. I then cut a rectangle shape on top of one of the foam pieces and started slowly carving it out with the same box cutter. I made sure to take my time during this process so I didn't accidentally cut into the outer edges. At the end, I had carved out about 3.5 inches into the foam piece. After the structure of the planter was done, I used some good old white acrylic paint and a sponge to paint the whole piece. I specifically used a sponge instead of a regular paintbrush in order to keep the original texture of the foam and not have brush marks. To do so, I just dabbed the paint on the foam. I waited for the first coat to dry and then went in for a second coat because the green foam color was still showing through. You can obviously paint this planter any color you want, so don't forget to customize it to your taste. After the second coat of paint was dry, I took the piece outside and sprayed it with my acrylic sealer to finish off this project. I was able to create this minimalistic planter dupe for only $2, and I think that it came out really cute. To recreate this mirror dupe, I started by lightly sanding the entire wood frame with a 150 and then a 220 grit sandpaper, just to get that glossy finish off and make the surface nice and prepped for the next steps. I then started outlining the carvings on the frame following a similar pattern as the original piece with a ruler and a pencil. You'll notice that I only outlined the pattern on a quarter of the mirror, and after that I decided to just have fun and create my own pattern instead of trying to copy the original piece 100%. This round mirror from Urban Outfitters was the inspiration for my third project. Now surprisingly, I can no longer find this item on their website, and I guess they sold out. Just one more reason to DIY this piece if you like the look of it. It was priced at $89 when it was still available, and I was able to recreate a similar mirror and actually a bigger one for just $10. Another reason I decided to DIY this mirror was that I found a pretty basic and bland mirror on Facebook Marketplace for $10 a few weeks ago, and when I came across this piece on Urban Outfitters, I thought it was the perfect base for it. I know that this project isn't a dollar store dupe DIY, but you can easily use the same technique to vamp up an old mirror that you might have laying around. You can also just keep this DIY in mind for any future projects that you might be working on. Plus, if you really like the look of it, I'm sure you'll be able to find a similar mirror on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp at a comparable price point. Anyways, the only tool you need for this DIY is a triangular hand file. You can usually find a set of these files at your local hardware store. I'll make sure to link the one I use below in the description box. It's also good to have this set on hand, especially if you do a lot of wood projects. So I just used a triangular hand file out of the set that I bought and basically carved out all the outlines that I had made beforehand. That's really all there is to this DIY. It's super easy and fun, especially if you decide to freehand it like I did. I will say that it's a relatively time-consuming project. I think it took me about 4 hours to complete the carvings around the entire piece, about an hour per quarter of the frame if you will. I actually did half and went back to complete the other half the next day. Once I was done carving my patterns, I cleaned the mirror and the frame with a damp cloth to get rid of any sawdust. I initially was going to stain the frame, and that's why I applied the pre-stain conditioner, but then I decided to leave it as is because it was looking pretty much like the original piece and I liked how it looked at that point. But you can totally stain or even paint the frame whatever color you want. That's it for this project. I think I was able to totally elevate the look of this basic mirror and make it more interesting using only one tool and one technique. For the last DIY, I recreated this $59 vase from Urban Outfitters using a couple of bowls from the dollar store and some polymer clay. So I used two different types of bowls for this project. The pink one came in a pack of 4 for $1. The red bowls consisted of 2 sizes per pack for $1. I got 2 of these packs and used the bigger size bowl for this project. I started by stacking and assembling the bowls, the 2 red ones on top and bottom, and 2 pink bowls for the middle section. I attached 1 pink bowl to 1 red bowl, both upside down, using a mix of E6000 and hot glue. I held down the pink bowl for about a minute to make sure it's nice and secure in place. I repeated the same process with the other pink and red bowls. Then, I used a small paintbrush to get some E6000 glue on the edge of one of the pink bowls. This is just an easier method to avoid having too much glue, especially since the pink bowls had a very thin edge. I then added some hot glue over the E6000 and placed the 2 pre-assembled parts on top of each other. I made sure to keep the piece nice and steady for a few minutes so that the glue can adhere to both sides. Now I totally forgot to make holes in the 2 top bowls before gluing everything together. I realized after the fact that this can't be a vase without the holes, so I carefully used my box cutter to cut a hole in the top portion of the vase, that is making a hole through 1 red and 1 pink bowl. I also forgot to record this part of the process, but you get the idea. The holes don't really have to be perfect either, as they won't be visible once you have some faux leaves or flowers in there. While I was waiting for the glues to completely dry, I decided to create the handles for this vase using some white polymer clay. I started by kneading a piece of clay with my hands to make it nice and soft to work with. Then, I slowly rolled it into a relatively thin cylinder shape. Next, I used my X-Acto knife to cut the cylinder shape in half. I twisted the 2 pieces together to create one of the handles. I held the twisted clay piece against the vase to make sure it's the right size and that it will fit once it's baked. I cut any excess with my X-Acto knife and smoothed out the edges with my fingers. I then repeated the exact same process one more time to create the second handle. I then placed the clay pieces on some parchment paper and baked them in the oven for about 20 minutes at 275 degrees according to the instructions on the packaging. Once they were done baking, I took them out of the oven and set them aside to cool down. At this point, my vase felt pretty nice and sturdy, so I took it outside and spray painted it white. I know that the original vase from Urban Outfitters is yellow with white handles, but I really didn't care for that color, so I decided to go for white. And that's the beauty of DIYing, putting your own personal touches on every decor piece. I waited about 45 minutes for the first coat to dry, and then I turned the vase upside down and gave it a second coat of the same white spray paint. I then repeated this 2 more times, giving it a total of 4 coats. Those pink and red bowls were pretty bold colors, and I wanted to make sure none of that was showing through in the end. With all that said, if I could go back and redo this, I would definitely spray paint all 4 bowls white before gluing them together, because in the end you could still see a little bit of the red and pink peeking through where the bowls were connected. So I'm just sharing my mistakes here with you, if you decide to recreate this piece, definitely paint everything first before assembling and gluing. After the vase had a nice white coverage, I decided to go in with Rust-Oleum's textured spray paint in the color bleach stone to give the piece some texture. I love using these textured spray paints to give flat decor pieces a facelift. They're so easy to use and you can achieve a high-end look with minimal effort. I spray painted the vase with this textured spray paint 2 times and let it dry each time between coats. After about an hour, I brought the piece inside and I started sanding the clay handles with a 150 grit sandpaper to make sure the edges fit nicely around the vase. I tried each handle on the sides of the vase a couple times during the sanding process to make sure I don't sand too much off. In the next step, I just used my hot glue to attach the 2 handles to the sides of the vase, making sure they're straight and secure. Despite all my efforts to neatly apply the glue to the thin edges of the pink bowls, the glue line was still pretty visible. So in the last step, I decided to hot glue this piece of rope that I had in my craft stash over the glue line to hide it away, and I think it worked out pretty good. That completed this project, and I think that despite all the little challenges that I faced making this piece, it came out pretty cute, and I love its style with some faux vine leaves. I hope that you enjoyed these Urban Outfitters inspired home decor and decide to recreate your own versions of them. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you in my next video.